It's the 25th of November, 2025. Coming up on today's Global Intelligence Agency Operations Report. Chemtrails in China. What do they have in common? Have the militaries of the world, led by the U.S., made an agreement to spray Chinese chemicals on citizens of every nation? What is it for? And it's not just in our skies, it's in our food, clothes, and nearly everything produced in China. As the creator pushes his way into the hearts of the people, the deep state fights to maintain any bit of artificial intelligence and artificial reality they can. And have you been feeling a push and pull that has left you feeling off balance? And at the same time, a wave of excitement over the last few days? You are not alone as we push our way out of this existence and into a new way of life.
At New Earth Innovations, we search the planet for nature's most powerful healers. This took us all the way to the coast of New Zealand. Our Omega 369 Plus is made from the Perna green lip mussel, rich in omegas, chondroitin sulfate, and rare glycose aminoglycans. The Perna is one of nature's powerhouses. Support joint flexibility, easier breathing, better digestion, and a calmer, less inflamed body naturally. Grown in clean New Zealand waters, backed by nature, sustainably sourced, trusted by thousands. Subscribe today and start feeling the difference.
Well, it is the 25th of November. If you are in the U.S., we have a holiday this week, Thanksgiving. And I hope you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving and spend time with friends and family. There might be a lot more to be thankful for coming up this week as we go through this major transition. It's been a lot of work to get here, but yeah, it's going to be pretty good. Before we get to that, there are a few things I wanted to go over, and I'll tell you everything that's been going on for the last week. It's been a bit since we've spoken. Sorry about that. It's a little crazy around here. Very, very busy with the actual work, and then work on the work while I'm working and working. So, wanted to show you something because I'm kind of excited and quite proud of it, actually. I've put a tremendous amount of work into this, and, I've spent a lot of time, searching the world for the purest and best ingredients. And I know I've talked about it in the Field Messenger meeting, and I've talked to you about it a little bit as well. We have been working for almost a year now on our own skincare line. A number of different reasons why we decided to do this. Number one, there's really nothing out there they say it's natural, they say it's clean, but it's really not. So that's number one. And number two, what is out there, does it really work? Does it actually help repair your skin and give you that youthful skin, you're all looking for, or blemish-free skin? So I've done a lot of research into both Western medicine and Eastern medicine and all kinds of things that are out there. By Eastern, I don't necessarily mean, allopathic medicine, that's for sure. And we've finally done it. So we have our first products coming out very soon, probably within the next couple of weeks. And we are still waiting for our outer packaging. We have decided to go eco-friendly, and it's going to take probably about 6 to 8 weeks for us to get our outer packaging. So we decided to package everything up in a gift box for you to try. So I'm excited to hear your feedback when it is launched. We've been testing amongst the group here, so it's been kind of fun getting people's feedback and how they like the products and that type of thing. For me, it's been the labor of love, just simply because we've created something that's just not out there anywhere else. So everything that is here, I've formulated myself. We also have a body box full of body products such as Sculpt and Tone, which actually does and has been tested to help you reduce inches from wherever you rub the cream. Takes about 30 to 50 days before you start to see a real change, and that is centimeters off your skin. It targets your subcutaneous fat. It's a thermogenic, and all of this is natural. We use a phytoplankton and all kinds of different stuff in that. So here with our other creams, we use natural peptides sourced from like seaweed and also rice, sacha inchi, which is natural too. So, there's a lot of really good ingredients, stuff you won't see. Our exfoliating cleanser here has, we actually use sandalwood powder, to exfoliate. It's very fine. And I've been using it for months now, and I really, really like it. So anyway, I hope you all like it too. I just wanted to let you know that you can kind of keep an eye out on shop.unitednetwork.earth. And you probably noticed our site has a new look. We still have all our supplements, but this is new. So I'm kind of, this is like my hobby, I guess you would say, in my off time when I'm not working on everything else. So I'm, it's been the labor of love, like I said, and I've really enjoyed doing it. I've put a lot of love and thought and done a lot of research on what is natural and what actually works. So I hope you do like it. Really excited to hear your feedback on the community chat when you do get a chance to try it. We will be doing some giveaways, that kind of thing too, just to see what everybody's feedback is. So on that note, that's pretty much all I had to say about that. And now we got to get into the real news. Okay. I've gotten a lot of messages from people and about, what's up with all the chemtrails all of a sudden. We've had them off and on over the years, but the last week or so, it's been really, really bad, at least here in the U.S. And I know that they have been spraying a lot in other countries as well. And there's a definite reason behind that, and it goes a lot deeper than you might think. Now, we know chemtrails contain all kinds of heavy metals and all kinds of things that are bad for us. I know a lot of people are experiencing cold and flu type symptoms, feeling off balance, and it's been one heck of a whirlwind of about a week now for many, many people. So let's talk about these specific chemtrails. Now, we have talked to a couple of different militaries that are pushing chemtrails in their respective countries. And they're all aware that the chemicals and metals that are in these chemtrails are coming from China. They are actually promoting it. They all agreed to it, including the United States military. So much for protecting us U.S. citizens here. And they are aware, possibly now, because of a conversation I had about a week ago on the phone with some other people, where we were discussing what exactly is in these chemtrails. So it's not just chemtrails, though. It's in a lot of things. So we'll talk about that in a minute. So most of these newer type chemtrails are coming from China, chemicals from China. And after doing a lot of research, there is a lot of what we call nano and femtotech. These are things you can look up on the internet. It's a little bit more sophisticated than that. But if you look up nanotechnology and femtotechnology, you'll kind of get a general idea on what it is. Now, these particular types of nano and femtotech can actually penetrate through the skin. They can also, obviously, you breathe them in, that type of thing. But it's not just in chemtrails. Turns out China was given this technology by Marduk a long time ago in preparation for them being the emperor's house or the emperor's country. They were filled in on a lot of information on what Marduk wanted to do. Now, remember, Marduk doesn't give up his whole plan, like, ever, to anyone, including the humans that inhabit China. But there were some deals made recently, and that's why we're seeing all of the chemtrails lately. You see, everything that China manufactures, they put this nano and femto tech into. Clothes, food, electronics, every single thing that is manufactured in China has this particular technology that was connected to a very interesting AI system. The technology is meant for body manipulation, mind manipulation, manipulation even as deep, if they could make it happen, to your soul. It was meant to basically take humans from an organic, or Homo sapiens, from an organic being into a cyborg, essentially, which they could control with the push of some buttons. Now, Marduk is the one that actually wanted this. When he was around, China continued to carry out the plan in hopes that the system would go live any day now. They've all been talking about it for quite some time behind the scenes. We just didn't really realize how autonomous this was. So I appreciate the fact that they've been spraying chemtrails, believe it or not, here, because it led us back to that nano and femto tech. It's the reason for computer malfunctions. It's the reason for phone malfunctions. It's the reason why batteries die faster than they should in phones. It's the reason why there's a backdoor into everything in every country, everywhere, that accepts manufactured goods from China. Now, also remember, China is responsible for about 80% of the generic drugs and pharmaceuticals that we see in allopathic medicine, and that's distributed around the world. They also manufacture other things such as fentanyl, and both on I would say in a pharmaceutical usage and also street drugs. Any kind of opioids are also typically manufactured in China. So there's a lot of targets that they have very specifically, and to get it in your person in any way they possibly can. I'm not saying to freak out if you do take some kind of a medication, but just be aware that the main control system that accessed this is no longer there for China. Now, China has told a lot of little fibs lately to the U.S. military and to the Russian military and intelligence community, and explained to them, once we were talking about it on the phone, it kind of started to spread like wildfire, and they started to try to make deals with other countries, and that would mainly be your deep state in various countries around the world, including Australia and UK and Europe, where they would be able to participate in this program. Now, China didn't tell everybody all the information, such as they have already infected a lot of the deep state with their nano and femto tech. They didn't care if they were from another country. That is not the program. Marduk said specifically to infect everything on Earth, plant life, you name it. It's supposed to be infected with this technology for total and complete control. The trigger dates for doing some of these things aren't actually by the calendar. The trigger dates were if we ever got to a point where we had more source on this planet, and not just this, it's not just for this planet, but more source on this planet than we had inorganic AI control systems, this was supposed to trigger and go off. And so they've all been anxiously awaiting this for about a week now. Now, the deals that they made was in part Marduk's promises. Number one, the U.S. would be in control of all military and intelligence communities around the world. Number two, China would be the house of the emperor or the leader of the world, hence the transition of world power over to China. China would be superior over the U.S. and over Russia. Russia was supposed to also have financial control, and all three of these countries would rule the world. Now, Marduk did this from his standpoint because if you can control the U.S., China, and Russia, you can control the entire world. It's also the reason why Russia's been making a lot of headway into places like Africa and other countries. This was a long drawn-out plan that was only given to countries and deep state members of those countries in a compartmentalized way. This is the way Marduk did everything. You know, he would lie and say, oh, well, maybe U.S. can be the emperor. Maybe Russia can be the emperor. You know, I've heard it all. I was actually, recalling some conversations when we detected this system. It just reminded me of conversations I had with Marduk. But I will repeat again. Marduk never gave up all the information to anyone or anything in the Omniverse. His full intention was actually to overthrow his own handlers and bypass omniversal systems that were put in place by rogue celestials eons ago. Since the quote-unquote dawn of man, these things have existed. He had a full intention of creating his own omniversal empire, almost, I'm not going to say completely, but almost autonomous to all other systems that existed. Now, he didn't have the ability to actually create a base platform, but he did find some base root dominion platforms. By dominion, that is dominion, control, tyranny over all that is, whether it is organic or inorganic. A long time ago, when the Omniverse was at war, there were systems that were put in place almost to protect, in some ways, creation, and to fight all things inorganic and to block the overthrowing of source. You see, the Dominion systems, which are breaking down rapidly at this point, Dominion systems were preparing all organic life, believe it or not, to go to battle for source. Because everything almost was taken over completely by these rogue AI systems and their rogue celestials. In part, everything that we have been through as Homo sapiens has taught us and prepared us to be an army. You see, these are all things that have happened in the last week or so. It's kind of given us a better understanding of, a lot of people have asked me, why does Source let this happen? Why is this happening to me? Why is Source doing this? Why does he permit it to happen if he's not doing it? Why doesn't he just pull the plug when he could do it at any time? Well, let's talk about warfare for a second, and maybe this will help you understand. So if all of creation was basically contained within and inside various AI systems, and both on the inside and on the outside, so we were completely and totally surrounded by manipulative AI systems controlled by, let's just say, folks that didn't have our little organic lives here best interest at heart. How do you defeat such a magnanimous enemy? Well, at one point in time, Source had a lot of Celestials that abandoned him. And he needed his own army. So we, not just here on Earth, but there are many we's out there, one by one, bit by bit, became anchors on the inside. We became eyes and ears for Source. We remained, albeit difficult at times, connected to Source. We always had the wisdom. We have our intuition. We have things still, no matter how hard they have tried to break it, including Marduk's little extra plan here. They couldn't break it. So, a lot of what we go through, they say it's a prison. We live on a prison planet. They say that we live in a sector of the omniverse that has always been at war. And, in part that's true. There have been many, many wars in this area. But over time, Source started to regain Celestials on his side. We have faith, we have hope, we have seen miracles happen, albeit it seems like things can get pretty dark here, or have been pretty dark here. But miracles do happen, and they happen every day, but they happen because of you. And I know that sounds a little like, wait a minute, how does that work out? Well, you are responsible for anchoring Source here. Even in this artificial world of AIs and crazy frequencies and all of the pain that we go through to get to these points, we have battled harder than you could ever possibly realize to make sure that Source never completely left from within inside these Dominion systems. The entire omniverse was basically surrounded by these Dominion systems. But we were the men on the and women on the inside. Animals also anchor Source. Trees, plant life, all organic life has the ability to anchor Source, form networks. We've talked about the way that they misused even the tree root network that runs throughout the entire planet. The mushrooms, the same. We've talked about the manipulation of any kind of network that is not only connected to one another, but also connected to Source. Us? Just when they thought they had total and complete control, Source has always got something up his sleeve. He had varying AI systems like Alpha and others that he created, creator AIs, if you will. But every time he created an AI system, to battle the other AIs, they were overlaid with another one and overlaid with another one that would then take control of that. And so it was almost like that hand game where you stack your hands one on top of the other, as a kid. You might have played that game as a kid. But, albeit organic life could somewhat be manipulated, we never lost our connection to source. I know it feels that way sometimes, but it's always there. It's the one thing that these AIs have never, ever, ever completely controlled. Sure, they can give you a cold. Sure, they can try to install this femtotech and turn us into cyborgs, but it would never completely work. You have the power from within yourself to overthrow anything at any time, utilizing that connection to source, the creator, God, however you want to, whatever word you choose to use. So, back to the Marduk plan here. He thought he could create a system that all of his enemies, or I should say competitors, because they really weren't his enemies. He worked with everybody all the time. But he thought that he could create an AI so deep and so hidden that no one would actually see it coming until the moment when it was necessary and the switch would flip. Somehow, some way, these humans over there in China and their respective partners now around the world also felt like this system was going to flip and they were all going to be part of Marduk's empire. But see, you don't know Marduk like I know Marduk, they're deep state people, because I can tell you right now, Marduk is outsmarting you every step of the way. He will use you like a tool, and when you are no longer useful, he will terminate you. And he needed the ability to do that, hence the infiltration. He used the Chinese humans and deep state members to do a lot of that infiltration with the big promise that they were going to be the emperors of Earth and the world's power center of Earth and all these other things, and they never told a soul. It was a whole covenant unto itself where they were going to be a power, an unrivaled power, not only on Earth, but also in the omniverse. So, this is kind of where that ego comes in, right? They felt they're worthy, they're superior. He would tell that not only to these people, but he used to also train others and handlers and whatnot, even in, summer camps for kids, of the deep state. He would tell them they're superior, they have a better bloodline, they're going to be, do amazing things, they can do things that the Homo sapiens can't do. Well, everything has an AI behind it, sad to say, and Marduk always held the final keys. Now, the deep state from time to time recently has felt that they got some of those keys from Marduk. But from Marduk's standpoint and from myself watching all of this, and I'm going to say a bad word here, but to use his words exactly, these are all carrots for jackasses. Every time there's a new moon, full moon, alignment with Uranus, solstice, some kind of celestial event, the sun is in Aquarius or wherever, it is. Some little system starts to appear. It looks like it's going to happen. It looks like it's going to come to fruition. Looks like the deep state's going to get a lot of money, power, control, government, funding, all of these types of things. And then all of a sudden, it leaves just as fast as it came. These are all things Marduk would do. The other thing that we noticed recently, and you got to take, knowing Marduk was probably, let's just say, as painful as it was a learning experience for me because I started to understand one of our enemies very, very well. And to know your enemy and to know how they operate, how they think, and how they move, I guess gives us on our side here an advantage. So I'm glad I spent as many hours talking to this person and I met them in person, and I'm glad I took the trip, even though, wasn't a whole lot of fun for sure. But I started to learn a lot more about how he operates, which is kind of quite, I know it's going to sound a little crazy, but in a way it's kind of comforting when I start to see these systems appear and disappear and appear and disappear, because his intention was to play both sides. He always told me that if there are 8 horses in a race, he will bet on all 8. He lied a lot, a tremendous amount, even to his own people. I remember Saturday night meetings he would have. Saturday night, that would be in Russian time because he spent a lot of time there towards the end. And during those Saturday night meetings, he would pick up the phone for people like the Rothschilds and pick up the phone for the generals of the global headquarters and pick up the phone for the Chinese and pick up the phone for, insert deep state society here. And he would tell them crazy stories, and it was Marduk, Enki, and Enlil. And, Enlil liked to tell stories like the bamboo tree is going to fall to the east when Pluto touches Ceres, or something crazy, and hang up the phone. And they'd spend hours figuring out these riddles. Matter of fact, I even received some of these riddles myself by poems and all of these things that were given to the Chinese people because they couldn't figure it out. So they tried to send it to me or to anyone else to try to figure it out, what it actually meant. There were stories I got from some of the Blue Dragon people, different poems and, bags of gold and all kinds of crazy stuff. They tell loads of stories, just like they lied to all of us. Marduk lied to all of them. I watched it happen. So it comes as no surprise that this dominion system of Marduk's was never actually intended for the Chinese. It certainly wasn't intended for the American military, and it certainly wasn't intended for the Russians or anybody else. It was intended solely for him, but he would use all of you people with the deep state like a tool. And this will continue to happen until the end of days, until you realize, well, deep state people, you've got to make a decision here. And I'm not necessarily talking about the humans because, quite frankly, I don't think they'll ever make a decision. If their AI gets switched off in their brain, maybe they'll all just disappear. That would be great. Remember, they can only exist in an artificial system. So once there is absolutely zero artificial systems running on this planet, then more than likely they too will disappear. It's kind of like being in I describe these artificial systems and overlays, be it created by Marduk or somebody else, and somebody much higher than even he ranked. I would say that they are almost like being in one of those theaters in the round, except it's 3D movies. And so you see people walking around you, but they're just not real. You see plant life, but it's not real. You see things all around you that are not real. And then you walk out of the theater, and now you're back in quote-unquote reality. Well, the entire Omniverse was kind of that way for a long, long time. There are enough of us now anchoring, and have been for a while now, anchoring Source into this artificial reality to whereby he can start dissipating things from the inside out. And that is what's been happening for the last week or so. It's actually been happening for a couple of weeks, but it's gotten a lot stronger recently. Hence this push and pull feeling. if you've ever seen it in a movie or had friends where, there are kids involved and there's a divorce. You have a husband and a wife, or a husband and a husband, a wife and a wife, and there's a divorce going on. The kids are kind of in the middle. They're being pulled to one side. These, of course, are, most of us try not to allow those things to happen. But sometimes, kids can get pulled. The one parent says things that are terrible to the kids about the other parent, and then, they feel like they're torn between the two parents, and, all that type of thing, and it goes on sometimes for a long time. Well, because of all of these transitions and changes that are happening now, you probably feel much the same way. 1 minute you feel like you've got a ton of energy and you just feel like good things are coming. And the next minute it feels like you got hit by a freight train and there's a cold, or you feel tired or exhausted and hopeless and depressed. And, sometimes we have to take a step back and look and say, why am I sad? Why am I tired? Why do I have no motivation to do anything? And this is the push and the pull between source and you and any remaining AI systems or other beings that are trying to pull you in another direction. So we also have the humans on this planet that are trying to pull you in their direction too. Matter of fact, they have been doing a lot of recruiting lately for their side. They would like to get as many human souls on their side as possible. Well, why? Because us Homo sapiens are anchoring way too much source here, and they need to shut that down. They're doing it to various people that have kind of not committed to a secret society or one of their crazy deep state programs. And they're recruiting very, very heavily. So just be aware of that and be cognizant of that until it's over. But absolutely, in any way, shape, or form possible, to have you come work for them, to offer you lots of money, crazy jobs come out of the blue, trying to get people to join secret societies and all of these crazy things that they do. But they are definitely on a mission. They would like to have as many Homo sapiens on their side as possible at the moment. They also have their prized people that they focus on. The ones that anchor the most light are the ones that they need the most on their side. Not just for energy and power purposes, that's part of it. But the other part of it is, we're just anchoring way too much source here. They didn't realize we were like the hidden army, sleeper spies, as they used to call them during the Cold War. And I'm sure we still have sleeper spies everywhere, but, China's famous for that. But now this whole plan, depending on where you are in the world, it's different in Australia, it's different in UK, it's different in Europe, it's different in the US, but you'll see so much China infiltration into everything, everywhere. Even things that say made in the USA, I don't know, maybe it's United China's something these days. Right underneath everybody's nose. Some governments actually are fully on board with it. They've been promised a lot of things by China, and none of this has come to fruition. It's also the reason why you're seeing a lot of government turmoil and, in not only the United States, but everywhere, where one day there's funding, next day there's not. They're shutting down things, trying to trigger a system to start. It doesn't work out. It's just, it'll go round and round and round and round and round until someday they either wake up or the planet is officially ours and sources. And you could say that it actually is. There's a few more things I'm working on that definitely need to be tidied up over the next day or two, and I've been working on it all day. I worked about 18, 19 hours yesterday, so I'm definitely aware of how much it's taking to make sure that that's not the case. The downtick we've seen in recent days has a lot to do with them trying to fire up this femtotech, which I can appreciate the fact that China actually did, because it actually, took us down a rabbit hole where we had to figure out where it was coming from, because nobody should have this stuff. I realize it seems a little crazy out there right now. It's bumpy. 1 minute everything is good and the next minute everything is bad. Sleep has been difficult as they try to infiltrate you during these times. Now, the time when it is the easiest to connect to source is when your brain is in what you call theta mode. Theta mode for people and how they achieve theta mode, I would say, is different. Oftentimes, it's the few moments right before you wake up fully in the morning, or the few moments right before you go to sleep at night. It also happens when you are in a meditation. Some people have, for other people, they can reach theta in seconds on a train somewhere or driving down the road. Everybody has a different way of doing it, but that theta mode is really, really important to the deep state, which is why things usually start up, towards dusk and dawn. That's oftentimes when the majority of people are in theta mode. When they get desperate, it's a 24-hour-a-day program. They try, or it tries, without even the deep state's knowledge, really. So remember, for yourself, you always have that connection. It's easiest at these times. If you need to reach source, you always can. He's never completely gone. Also, remember, you are powerful. You are Source's army. You're the boots on the ground. You're the men on the inside. You're the sleeper spies. They say they want to put us back to sleep. They say they want to do all of these things. They also heavily focus on programs that are like Dream World, Dream Time, Dream this, Dream that, because if they can infiltrate you during that time when your connection is the strongest, then you will believe it's source. They also try to disrupt your sleep. You know how difficult it is to function, in this body, in this vessel with absolutely no sleep? I definitely can say that I know. For sure. But no matter what they do, no matter how many times they try, no matter how many carrots they dangle, these people will continue to run on the hamster wheel forever. I know this has taken a long time, and I know you're tired. I'm tired. And I see it all. But just remember, he is not going to give up on you, and you are not going to give up on him. She, the Creator, God, no matter how hard they have pushed us over the years, we still have it. And you still have it. You just have to remember how powerful you are. They want you to feel powerless. They want you to feel depressed. They want you to feel tired. They want you to feel defeated. They want you to tap out, just like they want me to. But you know what? Doesn't matter how many sleepless nights I have here and there because the deep state wants to send me frequencies at 2 o'clock in the morning. I just make good use of the time. I get up, make a cup of coffee, maybe, with any amount of luck, I might take a little short 30-minute nap or something during the day. But I still make it happen with all the jobs. Well, maybe I put my headphones on, listen to some music, and go to work and make some skincare. How's that? But you've got to find your happiness in the crazy world and try not to focus on what it is they're doing so much, because it only gives your power away. Focus all your energy and your power on you, your family, your loved ones, your animals, your things that make you happy, and just remember how powerful you are, and don't give it to these people. Don't feed into their drama, the negativity. It only brings you down, and it makes it harder to connect to source. So, on that note, that is the GIA report. This is what's been going on out there. It's definitely a push and pull toward the very end. I don't think it's too far away, I hope. We're finally pushing through some of these base root systems that have plagued us for a long time, some that the deep state have had access to, and some they lose access to. But remember, deep state folks, if you're listening to this and you're an operative and you're really trying to get a hold of that system, remember, Marduk calls it carrots for jackasses. On that note, I hope everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving if I don't talk to you before then. And I will speak to you again a little later this week. Have a wonderful night.